How's it going, y'all? I'm gonna try getting my my two Twitch and YouTube chats side by side. There we go. Sometimes there's a struggle getting the stream set up. All right. So how's it going, everyone? I'm probably gonna stream for a little bit. Thanks for the follow, whoever that was. Didn't even see what happened, but all right. So yeah, I've been kind of working on this little side project thing that some of you have maybe seen videos about. Um, I'll come on the Twitch. You want to see the Twitch? Go ahead and get my viewers a little higher there. All right, so now I got both my chats going. Sometimes I neglect my Twitch, so I'm trying to get a setup so I can see both at the same time. Maybe just full screen that. So what y'all doing? What y'all working on this Sunday? Thank you so much for the oops. Yeah, thanks for the congratulations on the 100,000. What's on my face? I had a little thing biopsied just to make sure it's not like skin cancer or anything. Let us start coding, I guess. So I've been kind of playing around with like a little side project. Again, I've mentioned I'm working on this mainly to improve my TypeScript abilities, but I'm trying to actually build out something useful that I could potentially use myself in the future. But it's a way to basically create an API and like deploy it with a single command into AWS Lambda and API Gateway. And yeah, just I'm not even sure what to add on next. I recently refactored it to require the setup to be Postgres. So I added like a Docker compose file. So if you were to set up a new project, it kind of expects you to have Docker set up, and maybe I should update the README some. So let's go here to the README. I haven't updated that in a while. Give like a little overview. The default setup requires a Postgres database, which we've provided a Docker compose file, which will host one for you. And then I'll just go ahead and I'm not really good at writing documentation. It's always like a trade-off between writing too much stuff and writing not enough stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and just say like running the database. Assuming you have Docker and Docker Compose set up. Probably need to get some links for Docker. I forget how you do links. Is it like this? Oh, I have it backwards, I think. Name and type. All right, there we go. Docker and Docker Compose. You can easily start your Postgres database with the following command from the root directory of this repo. And then you basically can run docker compose up. So when I'm writing out documentation, I like to actually like verify all the stuff I'm writing actually works. So let's just write docker compose up and make sure this works. So I don't have Docker running, so I need to make sure I have Docker running. Yes, I read YouTube comments. All right, so now Docker compose is, our Docker is running locally. I'll do a Docker compose up. And for those who haven't ever used Docker, it sounds kind of overwhelming, but for most cases, you don't have to worry about how to actually make Docker files or how to like create your own containers. A lot of the utility and benefits from Docker are literally just from running other people's containers. And the steps to install Docker is probably running a single executable, and then Docker Compose is usually like a brew install or like a yum apt-get install. If you're on Windows, it's probably exe msi install. But with a single command, let me show you the Docker Compose file in case you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. With Docker Compose, you basically say, I want to spin up a database using a Postgres image. Here is the username, password, and the database name. This is the ports I want to use. And here is the place I want to store that data. And again, I didn't even write this. I just copied it from online and pasted it into my project. And now when I run Docker Compose, you get a fully running Postgres database inside a container on your laptop. So you don't have to worry about going and installing Postgres or MySQL and getting that all set up. And the reason I'm defaulting the project to use Postgres instead of like SQLite is because who actually runs SQLite in production? No one, right? You're usually going to be using a real database in production. So I might as well just give you a database out of the box. And I do have the environment variables pointing to, I believe, this Docker file. Let me make sure I'm not like leaking any information. Yeah, I do believe if I go over here, oh, this should be good. Over here, the database URL is Postgres, and it's app localhost /db. And those are the same three parameters that we specified here, app db. Someone says I have a typo. Var lib Postgres. I don't think it's called Postgres. I think it's Postgres. Oh, it is. Well, something weird. Let me show you. You're right, but let me show you something here. You know what? You are right. Let me just do this. Good eye, good eye. So let's go ahead and stop that. Thank you for pointing that out. And sorry for acting like I knew what I was talking about. Let me go ahead and do it again. Docker compose up. Oh, thank you. Okay, is this right? Postgres. Postgre. Should look good. What is up, my Twitch viewers? I have some issues building my landing page with Prisma. What's the issue with Prisma? Well, thanks for stopping by. And thank you for the congratulations. Right now I'm using AWS stuff. So when you do this, if you're in the actual directory, let me go here. You could say npx prisma db push, and that's actually going to set up your local database with everything that you'll need. Prisma is not in this repository. What is going on here? Did I not run npm install here? Wait, what did I run last time? That db push? I call it Prismas. Man, I'm really misspelling stuff today. Okay, so now we actually have a database set up, which it loaded in another window, which I'm not sharing. So we got the to-dos here and everything is good. So let me show you, let me walk you through how this stuff all kind of works. I got my Prisma data, I mean my Postgres database running, Prisma Studio running. And inside of that packages create, what I can do is I can fully deploy an API with a single command. Let me go back to my package.json and make sure that this is set up correctly. I think I do need to put a star here. But I have a source file, and inside the source file is where you set up the API. So I have like an endpoint here, and I have a status endpoint. And I think I have this deployed already, so if I show you in Thunder Client, if I go to like one of the last things I've hit, let me hit this endpoint, make sure it works. All right, so here is the actual API gateway URL for that API, and it has a status endpoint. And let's just pretend like I'm going to add another one, like hello. Do a request, it gets 404 not found. So if I wanted to add a new endpoint and get that deployed, all I have to do is make another hello page. Go ahead and copy and paste that in here. And I will just say like hello world. The way I have this set up with this little framework is you have a create handler function that you call, and it takes in an object, and you can specify inputs, outputs, in a handler. So in this case, we are going to return hello world. And this is actually throwing a TypeScript error because you have to make sure the thing you return matches the output that you have specified here. So let's just change this to hello. This is to help you catch bugs and also make sure you're not leaking things from your API to your front end accidentally. It's always good to validate everything that comes into your API and everything that comes out. Okay, so we added a new endpoint. And the idea of what I'm working on is I can just say liftoff, and that will, well, that should have deployed it if I had these things set. So let me just go ahead and set these things. You have to set some environment variables. I'll say LOL Ligma, and we'll say region is US East 1. Let's run it again. So this should take like 45 seconds, and then I should have a fully deployed, a new API with a new endpoint, hopefully. Of course, every time I do a demo, it seems to just fail when I start recording. Go back to chat real quick. Can you tell something about your approach to Java Spring and using it as a backend tech? I haven't used Spring since like 2013, so I don't even like remember much of it. I just remember there being a bunch of XML and configuration files, and I hated it. But I don't know if that's changed. I don't know if that's, yeah, I think that was Spring. We use like Spring and Hibernate. And a bunch of like application containers. Like there's something in Java called like Glassfish. I don't know if people still use that though. Java Glassfish. Yeah, we were using like some type of like application server. It wasn't fun. You have to like take your .war files and like deploy them. I think we were also using Tomcat at one point. Man, it's been so long. So I can't really give you suggestions about Java stuff, but is the pricing pay as you go on AWS? Yes, usually every service is like billed by the hour. Some services are paid by the use. So like AWS Lambda is paid by the use, and that's where I'm trying to deploy this API, which it's done deploying now. So let's just go ahead and hit that hello endpoint, and we should get back a response. So now we have a fully deployed API that has these endpoints, and I actually have it connected to a database that I'm hosting on Supabase. So for example, if I do to-dos, that actually hits a database and gets back all the to-do list application stuff. Right now I only have one entry, but if I were to add another one using this post request, I could just go here, I could say post. We will go ahead and just send over what is up, send that over, and then we're going to do a GET request. Now we have that coming back from our database. So it's pretty cool. That's what I've been working on. Again, it's just like a little prototype. What else should we talk about or do? Go ahead and revert that real quick. Double check this is all working. You can host your own Postgres database without needing Docker if you want, but Docker will make your life much easier. Okay, running tests. Daniel asks, what do you think about Nest.js framework? It has a similar architecture as Angular on front end. Did you manage to play around with it so far? I haven't actually got a chance to play with it. I looked through the docs a little bit, and it has like a lot of decorators and using the ES6 classes and stuff. It seems good. I mean, if it has built-in validation, it has some type of like, I don't know what it has built in. Guess I could just go to the docs, right? Let's see what Nest provides you, if that's something you want to use. Providers, I'm guessing this is some type of dependency injection you can use. Services, repository, factories, helpers, and so on. Yeah, you can inject these. Yep. So, I mean, that seems good. Got middleware. That's cool. Yeah, I'm sure it has a lot of features. So yeah, if you actually want to build a real API, I mean, like I would probably use this because it probably has a lot more features than you can do with Express.js. The issue I have with Express.js is that it's so minimal that you end up just like spending all this time pulling in random middleware functions, setting up all this additional stuff. And it's like, you would just save yourself time using something that's actually like production ready. Not that I'm saying Express isn't production ready, but like there's no logging built into it. There's no like WebSocket support. It looks like this might have some type of authentication built in with modules. I don't know. Luca says, hi from Brazil. What do you think is important to know to get to my first job in Node? I think you just need to know how to code and how to build like REST APIs and how to build scripts. Like if I asked you to build a script that like read in a file and parsed it and uploaded all the information to a database, that should be something that's super easy for you to do. Thanks for answering. Now XML is gone, so maybe you would try one day. I don't see myself ever going back to Java, honestly. Like, I mean, if I really needed a job, I'd go and apply for Java positions or something, but I'm kind of just in this world of JavaScript, TypeScript, and I'm kind of happy here. Well, most of the days I'm happy. Some days I wish I had like something more powerful, like Rust or Go or something with better typing. What's up, Peter McKeever? What is the main use of useEffect hook in React? It's if you want to like listen to state variables and like run things when those state variables change, or if you need to like set up something, for example, like I made a UI that needs to set up a webhook connection to a, not a webhook, a WebSocket connection to a server. And that's when you probably use effect, right? You want to set up the connection when the component mounts and then clean up that connection when it unmounts. First time chat from Nixter. If I'm choosing SSR in Next.js, is HTTP only cookies the only way to store tokens? HTTP only. I mean, that's probably the most secure way to store tokens. You could just send the token in an auth header from your front end to your back end. That's typically how you do it. It just depends on what your approach is and how much risk you're willing to have in your application. If you start using tokens, I think your app is more you have a higher chance of opening issues with like not cross-site or yeah, CSRF cross-site request forgery. Can't speak this morning. What Linux distro are you using? I'm using Mac. Is that a Linux distro? I'm using Mac OS. Unless you're asking for something else. Okay, so one thing that I need to add into this is I don't know if I have support for like IDs in the routes. So let's see if we can actually do some type of TDD to get this working. This is my Prisma. I'm going to rename some of the stuff. Prisma Studio. We got Docker. I'm going to rename this to Postgres. And then I'll say this is my service. And I will say npm run dev to get that going. Peter, what's your question? A service like Auth0 takes care of that though, right? Yeah, I guess Auth0, if it depends. If they have some type of like middleware you can hook into Next, then yeah, they would take care of that for you. If they don't have a middleware that works with Next, then you probably have to like parse those cookies yourself and then do something with them, right? But yeah, Auth0, like those type of authentication services like Clerk and whatever else, like Cognito, they're the ones in charge of storing your users' passwords and emails, and then they'll generate the tokens for you. They will set an expiration time of those tokens. They'll give you a refresh token, but you still have to take those tokens and put them on your requests as you send them across the wire, right? And then also when your backend receives that token, you have to do something with it. Unless the library you're using or the service you're using provides things out of the box to make your life easier, you're still gonna have to like take the cookie, get the token, and then forward that, invalidate it somehow. Like I think at work we use Cognito, and Cognito gives you some tokens, but you still have to take that JWT token. You have to go and do a JWT.verify on it, and then you have to use a public PE. I think it's called a PEK or PEM. So like Cognito has like a public URL that has the public key for what they use for signing their tokens, and you have to verify the token that comes to your API using that. They have built-in ways that you can just use Cognito to verify tokens. You don't have to do it all manually. But I think we ended up doing something a little bit more complex, so we had to manually verify stuff. Hello, just joined. Do you do Express or Next/Remix? At work, we have an Express application that's hosted on a monorepo. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. It's an Express application. I bundle it up. I bundle it all up, and then I deploy it to a Lambda, and then I put API Gateway in front of it. On my side projects, I've recently been using Next.js, and I just write my API directly in Next. It really boils down to do you want to have your API as a separate deployable thing, or do you want to bundle your API and the thing that, you know, your UI together? Oh wow. Twitch. Sorry, frankly, I didn't see that I had a Twitch chat. Hi, I just graduated software developer after 3 years of school. In school, I learned PHP, JavaScript, and basics of Java. Also, I did an intern of 1 year in Python Django. I'm at the point now to apply for jobs, but all jobs ask a lot stack-wise. You got any tips I could use to develop and apply, like learn X lag to learn thank you already for reading my message? I mean, I would say just apply to jobs anyway. Like a lot of jobs put a ton of stuff. Like if they put like MySQL on the job description and you know Postgres, like don't let that defer you or don't let that deter you, because they're like the same thing, right? If you know Remix instead of Next, it's like the same thing, right? It's a server-side rendering framework. It's the same concepts of you have an API endpoint that I think is done by file-based routing, and it can like translate. So I would say if they're listing something that you've never touched, like you've never touched any of the libraries that are related to it, then yeah, maybe you should go and like study on that. But you might just get lucky. Like sometimes you might not know it all, but in an interview, you might really show that you're like passionate or you really want to do the job. And yeah, they might just hire you. So I would still like apply places and get that interviewing experience, because fake it till you make it is actually a real thing. Like you can convince someone that you can actually get the job done even though you have no idea what you're doing. It's really about like selling yourself is really a good part of it. And if their interview process isn't thorough enough, like you'll just slip through the cracks and you'll get a job, and you'll learn a bunch on the job when you get the job. How do you prefer managing the token, or do you prefer some other ways like managing a session? I mean, at work, we store the refresh token in an HTTP only cookie, and it is only sent in a single endpoint. The JWT access token, we just store that in the browser inside of memory, and we send that over with the request header. Okay, so like that's a short-lived token. It lasts for like, I think, an hour max. So like as your UI is making requests to the backend, we just attach that to a header. But before that hour expiration time is reached, we just refresh the token with the endpoint, the refresh endpoint, and that uses a cookie. Yeah, AJ Zach, learn concepts, not languages and frameworks. Yeah. And I think as you gain more experience, this is like even more true, because you can easily pick up anything. Like a couple months ago, I started learning Go, and like it was super easy for me to like understand it, because all the asynchronous programming of JavaScript, it just kind of translates. Everything just translates from one language to the next, one framework for the next. What would you use today if you were to create a native app in JavaScript? I have seen some articles regarding Hamagui versus React Native. I don't really do any type of mobile development or native app development. I would probably, I hear a lot of things about Expo and React Native, so I personally would probably pick those, because I know React, but I'd rather just start with those. Let's see, question HTTP only cookies don't work with cores, origin set to star, right? Correct. I think you actually have to have an origin set with HTTP only cookies. But I mean, I don't think you should be using star ever for cores. So if you're just trying to do something locally with your HTTP only cookies, you need to set your cores to like localhost 3000 or something. Hey, thanks, Baron. Dogan, I am so glad you and your content exist. Hey, I appreciate that. What was I gonna do? Got caught off with comments. Oh yeah, I was trying to make sure, you know how in Next.js you can like add routes? So like if I wanted to get a particular to-do based on ID, I want to be able to basically do this. I want to say ID, and then I want to say it.ts. So let's just try to add an example like endpoint here. And I think I was about to do test-driven development. That's what I was going to do. So let's go ahead and comment out some of the stuff. And let's just return hello world here, this, and let's make sure this works. So I have some tests here, and I want to go ahead and make sure that if I run these tests, npm run test, do these pass? Okay, I didn't break anything after I've done a bunch of refactoring. And for those watching, let's just kind of do a little bit of test-driven development. People don't seem like they know much about testing and TDD, and they hate TDD. But the idea is I need to add a new endpoint, right? And I need to verify this endpoint is able to give us back a to-do item based on an ID. But I don't have anything implemented. I just have an endpoint that says hello world. So this is a good opportunity to do some type of test-driven development. And I'm going to start with an integration test. So let's just go ahead and copy an existing one. I will say get to do by ID test. Thank you for the follow, whoever that was. I used to have notifications. Let me see if I can get those back up. Twitch alerts. Is that it? Let's Twitch chat. All right, so now I should be able to see when someone follows me on Twitch. But thank you for the follow, whoever that was. Guess it was you. It's Pixel. I just released my first desktop app. Congrats. It's always cool, like releasing your first thing. What does your app do? Plasma UI. Yeah, this is my little Launchpad project. Thank you for the follow, Joker Cody. The second you have to do any device-specific peripheral interaction, always go native for mobile development. So, like you're saying, if you want to allow someone to use their camera, you would recommend that you don't use React Native or something? I thought React Native has support for a lot of that stuff. What if I have an API, Bihan Baker, what if I have an API that will be accessed by random people? I would have to go with JWT tokens and CORS origin set to star. I guess technically, yeah. I mean, like, so you're saying you're building an API and you want other people to build Chrome UIs, like to build websites that connect to your API as well. Man, my voice. Kraken. So like if you need other web UIs to access your API, then you need to either set up access to those, which I mean, what you can do is like you can set up a middleware to basically inspect the domain of where the request came, and you just put that into the header as an accepted header. And what that allows you to do is you can actually like whitelist and blacklist different domains. So if there's one site that's really abusing your API, you can just go and blacklist that. So instead of having to put star, you can add logic that dynamically adds the CORS headers, right? And then I think your HTTP only cookies would work. I could be wrong. I've never really gotten to that situation. I've always just, we have an API and there should only ever be one UI that touches that API. Yeah, Miguel, 100K subs. It just happened overnight, you know? Well, I guess it happened over the year. At the start of like April of last year, that's when like my stuff started blowing up. Yeah, I was at like 16,000. I think January, February, March, April, or May. It's like April or May of last year. I was at like 16,000 subs. And then I'm like, I'm just going to start publishing videos every day. I also got a new M1 Air, so like my computer is much faster and I could actually like push out videos a lot faster and edit them. And then I started doing YouTube Shorts, and the Shorts are really what got me all my subs. Like if you look at the breakdown, half of my subs come from YouTube Shorts, the other half come from like my videos. Try to develop an app using only code resulting out of prompts of ChatGPT. We had a live stream where we kind of did this. We built a Chrome extension and we tried to just only use what ChatGPT gave us. Half the time it gave us old stuff and we had to keep asking it to give us up-to-date code. But it actually worked pretty well. We both learned pretty well. It took us 2 hours to build a really basic extension, but it was fun. Yeah, at first I hated making YouTube Shorts, but now I'm realizing that like if you're going to start making content online and you're trying to make educational content, I would say start with Shorts. Not because they're popular, but it trains your ability to like, how can I take a really complex topic and explain it in 60 seconds? That is probably the most important thing that I've learned with doing like my YouTube channel, is if you can take a really hard topic or something that's like not easily understood and you can summarize it in 60 seconds, then you're going to be bomb at explaining anything, right? Because a lot of people, even myself, when I make my normal videos, I will ramble and ramble and ramble and talk. People are going to get bored. They're going to leave. They're not going to learn anything. But if you can just say the exact thing, the concise language you need to get the point across, YouTube Shorts really helps you like practice that skill. Joker Cody, hey, I'm new to web development. I find your YouTube channel really helpful. Love it. Thanks for joining. You did the pair programming for that ChatGPT session. Yep. Yeah, that was the pair programming one. Yeah, I'm sure YouTube really wants TikTok to be banned in the US as well, so that they can have the competition. Shorts are great though. I mean, I watch TikTok too, and like, well, I don't watch it that much, but there's a lot of content on TikTok that you can learn. Like if you follow people who do like home improvement TikToks, you can learn quite a lot of stuff in a short amount of time just by following like their examples. Yeah, a lot of the content on TikTok is just like purely entertainment. I'm more into the educational stuff, so like home improvement, artistic tips, programming tips, stuff like that. I think that's where like that stuff could really shine. If someone makes a TikTok that's like a TikTok type of app that is 100% geared towards education, I think that's a good market. Like I think someone could actually make a decent money out of that. I'll be honest, I probably won't get much done in the stream. Just kind of chatting the whole time. But we're going to go ahead and just try to write that test that I talked about. I know how much you guys want to hear about TDD, right? So I want to verify this to-do/ID endpoint. And before we before we actually hit the endpoint, what we need to do is we need to try to create a to-do item. So I'll say let created to-do or existing to-do. We're going to go ahead and do this. And we're going to go ahead and grab that existing to-do. And we're going to create it using our API. So just do a create with a post. And down here it says the existing to-do should be sent back when hitting the get endpoint. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get to do. We don't have a method for get to do, so let's go ahead and copy one of these. And I will go ahead and call it get to do. I'm basically just wrapping my API with all these little utility methods. I'm not using super tests or anything like that because, again, I'm not trying to get coupled to Express. I'm just trying to like make generic requests to my API and verify this all works. So let's interpolate this. I should probably pull this out to a base URL as well. But we're going to go ahead and get the to-do ID here. To-do ID, it's a string. That does a get request, should get back the response JSON. And then we can go ahead and go back to the test we're writing. Import that. I'm going to say existing to-do.id. Now, I don't like how these aren't typed. Kind of not nice. So I'm going to go ahead and is there a way to actually type the response here? I guess you can't do it with fetch. There might be a different library you can use, but I guess a hacky way is like I say promise, and that's going to be a to-do item, which will come from Prisma client, I believe. So now when I call create to-do, I should get back a to-do, which I could type here from Prisma client. Let me do the same thing with these other ones. So get to do should return me a single to do. Go ahead and type that as well. And then we're going to go to get to do's. We're going to type this. This needs to be an array. If anyone watching knows of a better way to do this, like a built-in way to do it, I'm pretty sure I've watched someone use a library that kind of provides types for your fetch requests for you. But at this point, it doesn't really matter too much, right? So we got a test here. We're going to create a to-do item, and then we try to fetch it. And then we want to expect that this thing to be defined, right? It needs to be defined with something. In fact, let me not do that. I'm going to say to equal ID, and this ID needs to match the existing to-do .id. I mean, technically, it should match the to-do, the exact to-do we created. I think I should just match that. That might be easier. Could be brittle, but okay. So now, if we do npm run test, that should fail, right? And the reason it's failing is because our endpoint is returning an array of things. So let's go here. And I think the issue is that in our little framework, we don't actually have a way to parse these things, right? So we'll have to figure that out. Yeah, I mean, I think marketing is like 50% of every product. Like, you could have the best app in the world, but if you can't get people to even know about it through the sea of like thousands of different applications, no one's going to use it. So you have to like really spend a lot of money and time marketing and convincing people that they should use your app. And that takes a ton of money. It takes a whole team of marketing and advertisements and whatnot. I remember when TikTok first came out, like there's tons of ads on YouTube about TikTok. It was crazy how many ads I remember seeing about it. All right, so we got a failing test. How do we make this test pass? Well, we have to go into the framework code because I don't think we even have support for this. So I'm going to go into my shuttle package, which is where a lot of this stuff is set up. And it's actually not as difficult as you think it might be. It's only 150 lines of code, and plus we have like a setup routes method. But let me refresh my memory because I don't remember how this works. We intercept every request using app use star, and then we will run the method depending on the route. So let's go run route and let's see what's in here. This is another method that's like 80 lines of code. This is actually a good opportunity for a unit test. I should probably actually reformat this code to make it easier to test. But right now we're going to stick with our integration test. And what do we want to do here? We want to say parts fill method. Let us, okay, so here endpoint path, we take the parts. I have it hard coded to 0, so that's probably the first reason why this is not going to work. Okay, so like parts will come in and we will get the request being to-dos. That would be like an ID. That'll be like 1, 2, 3. And then there'll be a get. Is the method. So instead of just hard coding this to 1, we need to write some logic to basically check to see if there is a folder with brackets of like a, yeah, just a folder with brackets. This is going to be a hard one. Will I be able to figure this out on stream? Probably not. I have to like recursively step through the parts. Let's do this. I wonder how Express does it under the hood, where they can like take your request and like and like map it. I could probably also use ChatGPT to kind of solve this problem, to be honest. So if I loop through the parts and I want to kind of build up the URL, I think. I'm doing this real quick. Okay, so parts will be to-dos, and I want to basically check the URL. I really don't know. This is the struggle with live coding, is that I feel obligated to keep talking and walk you through what I'm doing, but this is a hard problem. I'm sure someone else could probably figure this out. So like if let's just try to talk through the problem, I guess. So if I make a request to this with a GET request, what I need to do is I need to check my directories and files for one of the following. I need to check for either does a directory of to-dos 1, 2, 3 exist? If not, does a directory of to-dos something exist? If not, throw error. Maybe. Does that make sense? If, let me just reduce this verbiage a little bit. If directory of to-dos exists, use it. When you say directory, do you mean like OS directory or like endpoint? So this is a directory in the OS. So what I have is file-based routing. So a request comes in and the path will look like this. And then I want to basically check, is there a file that would match that path? So I look in to-dos, and then I need to take this token, or this part is what I'm calling them, and I need to check, is there a file or a folder called 123? And if there is, I need to just use that folder. If there's not, I need to go and check, is there something with like brackets or in like, you know, dynamic endpoints? I bet you money there's an npm package that does exactly like what I'm trying to do. But sometimes it's good to challenge yourself and be stubborn and try to build it yourself. So I think we could probably, let's just try implementing this logic and see. We could also drop it in the ChatGPT and tell us, and like see what ChatGPT tells us. Check if the directory path of this exists using the parts array. Okay, so at the very least, I think parts is going to be yeah, let's just do this. I'm going to say if file exists sync. I'm going to play around with this until I understand what's going on. We want to check if source routes, and then we will just do the parts route. I think the parts, or we'll say request.base URL, which I think would be like the full path. If that file or directory exists, method. Let's do this. Yeah, I just returned a 404 if it doesn't exist. Otherwise, we need to check. Need to add a endpoint. I need to add this thing here. Okay, so let's actually comment out all this stuff. Actually, we're gonna do that. Comment all this out. Now this should break like all my tests probably. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to that individual test, which is this one. I think I can just give it a, I could just run the test directly. That. What's complaining about? I must have some type of syntax error here. That's probably this. Yeah, it's in a public repo. This file exists. So it got here. So what we're going to do is like, let's just console log a little bit more information. We'll say rec.base URL. Rec.base URL. We're going to console log the method. Probably just use a debugger too. That might make life a little bit easier. And we're going to console log this expected file like this. Go ahead and run my test real quick, see what happens. So expected file was source, routes, to-dos, post. Okay, so the issue is that like I forgot the test actually tries to create something. So I think first of all we have to get rid of the base URL because it has a slash in it already. Kind of confusing. Let's go ahead and do this. Run it again. This file exists. To-dos, post. So if the file exists, what we actually want to do endpoint path. I think we need to set endpoint path. So I will go ahead and do you know when you write code and it's your own code, but you're still confused of what the heck you're looking at? That's where I'm getting at right now. Let's just try to make this pass. This would be endpoint path here. So check if the actual file exists, and then we're going to use that. So let's make sure this still works. Okay, it made it a little bit farther. So we got this URL now. So it's doing the second request. We fixed the issue with the post request. That works fine. And the second request is failing. In fact, if I were to just do npm run test, I want to make sure that at least 2 of the 3 tests pass. Okay, so we're still good. The API is still working the way it used to. And again, this is why you want to test, because as you're doing stuff like this and trying to refactor code and add functionality, it's super easy to break everything that exists. And you want to know, like, are you on the right path? But I think we are on the right path. It's just a matter of, can we get this thing working? So like when the other request comes in with the ID, we're going to have to check it. So like if this file exists, we can use it. Otherwise, we need to check every single token for dynamic brackets probably, right? Why is this so hard? Else we could just check I think we just want to regex here. So like if we were to take the parts here now, which I guess it's up here, and we could just build up a regex path is equal to parts dot map. File path and route has double slash. Is that intended? Yeah, what file is that? This one? This was intended not to have it, if that's what you're asking about. Should we just use ChatGPT? I bet you could solve our problem in like 5 seconds. Let's try it out. At this point, I don't know what I'm doing. So let's just see what this will give us. I'm trying to make a function which, given a API endpoint path, Would this have been easier if TDD was implemented from the start? I think this would be easier if I were to extract the function out into a separate standalone function. In the terminal, you have route URL with /. Where? Oh, this? I think this is just a console log. But you could be right. I should look into that. Because I think that'll fix it. I don't think that's the issue though. Yeah, that'll get rid of the /. Good catch, good catch. All right, so I'm trying to make a function which, given the endpoint, you guys can't even see what I'm typing down here, which given an endpoint path such as /to do /123, whatever, I want to check if a directory or subset of directories exist which map to the directory. I don't know if I'm even typing this right. To do /id/. We'll try that and see if it gives us something interesting to use. Oh, I should probably, nope. I don't want Python. In JavaScript, using Node, I probably need to rephrase this question a lot better. Endpoint parts, endpoint split filter, endpoint parts is less than 2, get parts base directory, concat endpoints directory path. I don't think this is going to do what we want. I don't know, y'all. This is where you get into the hard issues. I'm actually going to take a step back, and what I'm going to do is I want to try to do TDD with the utility function. I think if we can extract the utility function out of this thing, which I don't think I even added tests to this shuttle app, which I probably should. Let's go ahead and try to add that in. I'll say setup routes. I think I should rename this file too. I think it's called run route. I don't know why I call it setup route. I'll call it run route. And that should hopefully work. And then we are going to make a test here. I'll say run route test TS. And we probably need to do some stuff to set up testing. Is there a Jest config? I think I need the Babel config. For reset TypeScript. Okay. What else do I need? Probably need test and Jest. Let's go into that other package JSON. Let's add a dev dependency for Jest. Save that. We are going to go ahead and find TS Node, Prisma, cross-site types, Jest. We need to add that. Also, we can add probably these two things. Express, UID, Jest, Node, crossfetch, TS Node. I might need TS Node if I don't have it already. Text TypeScript. Let's add this script command. So I'll say script that. And let's see if this actually does something. I'm going to go ahead and write a test here. I'll say describe does stuff. It passes. Expect true to be truthy. And then we're going to go ahead and just try to run this. So let me open up a new terminal. I will go to packages. What is this? CD packages shuttle npm test. I probably need to install first. Oh, it worked. That's cool. All right, so npm test. This test is working. Now, what I would recommend doing is if we can find a way to, instead of testing this whole run route function, let's just make a function here that says export function map route to file. Okay, and we're going to take in a path here. I'll say API route is a string. And we will return false for right now. But somehow I'm going to have to also get the nested structure of my file system. Potentially. Or maybe we can just mock some stuff out. So I'm going to inject a function. Oh, thanks, Mohammed Farhan. Appreciate it. Is file exist? Probably bad English there, but I'm going to go ahead and give Boolean. No, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm not using Nest.js. Yeah, I'm basically going to spy out or mock out this function. This will take in a file path as a string. So the idea is if I can take this function and I should say should return true when a expected file path containing the matching route exists. And we're going to go ahead and just import this. I'll say import this from run route. That, I could type import correctly. And then we basically just want to call it. And we want this to be truthy when. Let's just pretend we're giving it to-dos like that. And we probably need to give it a method too, right? I didn't think about that. I'll say method, and that's a string as well. So to-dos, and then I will say, keep this as simple as possible. I'll do a get. And then I want to sub out what happens if someone were to try to call yeah, I guess it'd just be slash to-dos slash get yes. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing actually. Is this what I want to do? So if a request comes in, that's the method, or this is the method, this is the base URL. And this thing is a function that should check if the file exists or not. I'm glad you like my thinking process because I don't feel like I can, I'm thinking properly to figure out this bug out. But I'm just trying to break it down into smaller steps so that I'm like able to digest what I'm doing. Yeah, I guess I want to see, is it checking for the right directories, right? So like jest dot function here. Const is file exists equals jest dot function dot mock turn value. I'll just say true for right now. And I think actually what we want to do is we don't want to check if this is truthy. We want to check if after you call this thing, we want to expect mock.calls.0. Mock call 0 to equal. I don't know if I'm even on the right path here. Let's just go ahead and run this and see what happens. So it expected this, it got undefined. Let's see if the reason that's failing is because we didn't implement anything. Yeah, it just returns false. So we basically want to take some of the logic that we had over here. Oh crap. Let's go here. And we want to get this I don't like the fact that this thing has like a environment variable hard coded in here. I'll just call it extension. I don't know. I'm just thinking through this. Like, am I doing this right? I don't know. I'm just going to expect that TS exists. Base URL. So this is actually going to be called the API route. I might keep this consistent so that it's not confusing. And I will do this. And what we need to do is basically verify that we are calling the right method on endpoint path. So it made a request to something. Yeah, so maybe this should be part of the hard coded for right now, maybe. I mean, we could just verify that it made a call to source routes to do git. That'll make it pass, right? Although it's an array. Oh, a 0, 0. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what I'm doing is just verifying that, like, are you checking the right file path? Or are you checking the multiple file paths? Because I think we need to check different file paths potentially. Let's try to do it again. And we're going to go ahead and say should check for dynamic file paths containing brackets if a top level match is not found. Isn't status codes enough to check if file exists? Well, the issue is that, like, let's say they're doing a request to to-dos 1, 2, 3. There's not going to be a file called 1, 2, 3 in my directory, right? There's going to be a file called brackets. Where is it? Brackets ID. Okay. So I have to take the path and I have to potentially check every single directory to see if it contains a subset of brackets. Because I could have, this could be brackets inside of brackets inside of brackets, right? So that's where the complexity is kind of like tripping me up, where I have to like make sure that if there is no file called todos /123/git, it should also check that there's something called todos ID. Like, this is the test we want to do. We want to verify that if I pass this in, this thing is eventually going to check that this directory exists. Okay, and this is failing because it's not going to check that. It's checking todos 1, 2, 3 git. And I think I could say to be called with to make this more accurate. Does that make sense? Why are you writing tests for files? I've never used GraphQL before, to be honest. So let's just see if we can kind of play around with this. If I were to say ABC, and then here I say ABC, what happens? So it does kind of run the right checks. Okay, so someone asked, why are you writing tests for files? I'm writing a test to verify that the proper file is trying to be imported. So I'm not actually doing like any file IO. I have this stuff mocked out with a jest mock, I guess you could say. But the idea is I want to basically take the base URL. I want to split up in the paths maybe. So we'll do this. We'll split it up. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Let's run this. And we get back, here are the parts. But I think I had to like replace it somewhere else. Let's do this. I probably won't solve this on a live stream, I'll be honest with you all, but at least you guys are seeing some real coding in action and me struggling. So now we got the file parts, and what we kind of want to do feel like we can just go step back through the parts. And then for every single one, I could check if the file exists or if the bracketed replacement regex exists. So let's try this. I think I'm coming to a solution finally. I think what we want to do is we want to loop over this array let I equal to parts dot length -1, I greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. We're going to do an old school loop here. And we are going to check if parts with ID full path. Almost like I need a permutations algorithm. I'm going to say part of I don't know what I'm trying to achieve, to be honest. I'm just going to go silent. I need to think. This is just too hard of a problem for me to like keep talking, so I'm going to think. Why don't you do something like parts starts with that? Like if it has brackets, it has brackets, it's dynamic. Yeah, actually that's a good idea. I could just check if it has brackets. The issue I have is like we'd have to. I feel like we have to recursively traverse the entire routes folder first to get this stuff, right? Because how would you know what to put inside of here? Like you have to search all the. Let me try this. Write me a function which returns a nested object that contains all of the directories and files inside a specified directory in JavaScript. Get directory tree. What's up, all purple smoke? Thanks for the follow. Wow. Hope this works. Get name from path. Function takes in directory path. Does all this stuff. The path is a directory. It creates a path. All right, let's just copy this and see what happens. I'll put this in a utilities file. I'll say like get directory tree.ts. Go ahead and paste that in. Export that. Is this the top level or is this the top level down here? Get name file. Okay, this is a helper. Be a string. 3 children. This needs to be a something. I don't want to like spend time typing all this stuff. This could be a string. And okay, not assignable to never. Guess we should do this properly. Let's just go ahead and give it like a node. Type node is equal to this. This will be a string, 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 size. I don't care about size. I don't think I need size. Let's delete that. And then children would be an array of that stuff. So, type that. What is contents? Contents for each item has an explicit type. What does read dir sync give you? Child is supposed to be tree type? No, like recursive tree type, I mean. Well, I think this is a tree. This is a node that has a bunch of links to other nodes, so I think that should be right. All right. But this thing, I think this is just strings. This thing, path name type, path name type, and then children would be what does this do? Let's just try running this real quick. So we got this run thing. Let's just comment all this crap out. Let's just go ahead and do git directory tree, and we're gonna go ahead and just do like the source directory. Is this gonna work? Directory, run route, run route. Yeah, this, excuse me, this looks pretty good, I think. Yeah, I mean, you could have children be null or undefined if you wanted to do that approach. I mean, it's also fine to just keep it as an empty array, in my opinion. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the testing. I'll go ahead and do like this. Directory tree. That's going to be a T, it's going to be a node. We're actually going to pull this out. This. So now what we could do is we know that this thing defines like an interface that would require a tree. So if we were to just pass in, that's getting pretty nasty. Now, what, do I even need type? Type is a file, type is a file, type is a file. Type is a directory. I don't think we really care too much, do we? Because if it ends with a TS, yeah, I'm just working on a little framework for myself just to really practice my TypeScript skills. It's supposed to be like a Nest JS or like a Happy JS. Called Happy or Cola JS. Just a framework for hosting out REST APIs. Path is source. Path is this. Anyway, let's just go ahead and try to do something and map it out to what it would be if, like, to get this one passing. I'll say path is dues. Aim is do's. Type is directory. Children is going to contain a path to do's slash get.ts. Name is get.ts. Type is a file. Children is empty. Let's see if this works. Run the test. Of course it wouldn't work because I commented everything out. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually go back to what it was so it's like passing at least. And I think I need to rethink what I'm doing here. Do this. Is file exists is not a function. Oh, because I need to pass in the directory tree, the node. Okay. So it's passing. I don't know if it's passing for the good reasons, but I think what we want to do is refactor this code to like actually traverse the tree. Why is this complaining? Object literal may all specify known properties and path does not exist on node. How does path not exist on node? Right here. Did I import the wrong node? I'm using error lens. Error lens is what makes the errors pop up right here. Why is this complaining? Object literal may only specify known properties. In path does not exist in type node bracket. It's because I should not make that array. Okay. So the idea is we want to basically, we could just traverse the tree and see if there is a path that matches this. Or if there's a path that matches like the brackets maybe. Let's see, does file exist? Could be a function. We're going to take in a node. And we'll say parts, and that could be a string array. And I'm going to return does file exist. Actually, I'm going to call get matching file path. So this is like an internal recursive helper function. And we want to call it with the directory tree. And we want to call it with parts, which I think if we just go down here and grab that, where did I do that? Here. Okay, so the idea, if parts.length is less than or equal to 0, I'm going to return null. Actually, I'm going to return the... I don't know what I'm doing. We basically want to traverse this tree. And for every node, we basically build up a potential like path. And we want to check it against the path that we're currently like at. That makes sense. The theme I'm using is called Bearded Theme. So we want this thing to return this full path. That makes sense. But I feel like that's the most asked question is what theme I use. The bearded theme and the bearded icons. All right, let's just do this. We're going to go ahead and for let child in no.children, we're going to go ahead and check if parts.length is equal to 0. And we need to check if the current path equals just put the child here. Current path would be the node dot name concatenated with the child dot name, maybe. Why is this a string? There we go. Okay, so let's just go ahead and take in the name. I'm not going to be able to solve this on stream, I'll be honest with you all, but hope you guys are enjoying watching me struggle. Extension parts dot slice 1. Yeah, I have a test already kind of written. I'm just trying to like refactor the code to make it more proper because I think the code is just passing for another reason. In fact, what I could potentially do is I want to go down here. I'm just going to add another test to verify both scenarios at the same time because I think it might make it a little bit easier. So if I were to do the other scenario where, what are we trying to do? To-dos 1, 2, 3. We're doing a GET request, expecting a TypeScript file, and the path we're getting back would be this one, and we get ID. This is a directory, and this is going to be a path of to-dos 1, 2, 3. Technically, we don't need to check that one, but this one would have a child in it, which would be get.ts. Get.ts. Type of file. This would be children of nothing. So this is the other scenario where, like, if the route comes into the API of to-dos 1, 2, 3, we need to traverse this directory and find, is there a path that, oh wait, no, this would be ID. Not that. So we kind of want to see, like, is there a path that has this, if you were to substitute this token with this? Maybe it's as simple as, like, can we use regex? Like, if we were to take this string and, like, we just put a star here, does this thing match this thing? Or does it start with this thing? In a sense, this would work. So maybe we just have to go and find the very last node and just check if the prefix, like, do a string replace on this. I don't know. Let's actually do that. Maybe we don't need the actual tree. Maybe we just need an array of these. Maybe that would be easier. But really, we just want to get the ones that are ending with no children. If no.children.length is equal to 0, let's try this. I'm going to go ahead and just this. If the node length if children is 0, otherwise we need to trace the children. If we're at 0, that means that we can just grab the full path here. I'll say full path is equal to no.path. Let's just console log the full path here. And otherwise, we're just going to traverse the tree. I don't think we need any of this stuff. If I run this, what happens? That's the real question. Full path to-dos get. Yeah, so then I could just say if the full path equals yeah, I know. I need to just relax and take a breath. I feel like I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. So for this first test case to pass, we would have to verify that the base path or the base URL concatenated with the method dot extension would have to exist. If the full path matches this, then I'm going to return the full path here. Otherwise, I will return null. I have a missing quote somewhere. And what we want to do is we want to verify when I run this test that we get back source to do's get. I think this one needs to actually be like prefixed. Not read property of undefined file exists. Yeah, we're not calling is file exists anymore. So what we actually want to do is if we call this method, I'll say full path is equal to this. And then I want to basically verify that the thing I get back is the full path to the file. Get back undefined. We have to figure out why we're getting back undefined. Yeah, I'm trying to map API URLs to a directory structure using like dynamic IDs. I'm sure someone's already solved this, but this is really flexing my brain right now. I'm very, very confused. So what we could also do is throw in a debugger, and I could open this up in a debug mode. Return the function in the loop. Thank you. That is probably exactly what's wrong with that. Let me disconnect the debugger real quick and see if this will at least pass. If not, I'll use the debugger again. We got null back. All right, let's just throw up the debugger. I'm gonna step through this to make sure I really understand what's going on because I don't. If the node children linked to 0, which we have children, so we're gonna skip and we're gonna take the child and we're gonna recursively dive down into that. And then if the children are 0, yep, so this is a path of to-do/get.ts. Then we check if the full path matches the base URL, which starts with to-dos. So that's probably a problem. We need to get rid of that to-dos, or we could potentially just do this. Save it. Let's just, is there a way to restart this? There's not. Let's just rerun this. Thank you, Charbel. Farah. Did I pronounce that right? All right, let's do it again. We're going to go ahead and run, dive into this. There we go. Run it. We got one passing. The first one's probably passing. Now the second one is not passing. Let's figure that one out. Probably Charbel, not Charbel. So the second thing is we need to go until we hit this. And then we need to figure out some regex for that. So how do we do that? Let's skip. I'm gonna go ahead and put an only on this one so like we can just run the debugger and really understand what the code's doing. So let's go ahead and dive down. I think it dive down again. And now we have the full path, which is do's bracket ID / get ts. And we're trying to check if that thing matches this thing, which it won't. So I think what we want to do instead is I think we might be able to say like new regex, pass it the path, but I'm going to replace anywhere where there's an ID. With dot. I want dot. I want like A through 1, 0 through 9. Do a group here, one or more bracket. And we're going to replace that part of the path with a star. With a 0 through 9 plus. How do you do regex in JavaScript? Isn't it like this? New regex? Okay, let's just disconnect the debugger real quick. Cannot find regex. Did you mean regexp? Oh, okay, that's how you do it. So take the path, which is a string, and we want to replace this stuff. Let's go to regex 101. Let's put in the to-dos ID below. Let's just do this. Yeah, so that regex is correct. And then we're replacing it with star, whatever. Yeah, replace that with this. Then we want to check if this thing matches test that. Okay, let's give this a shot. I'm gonna go ahead and just run this with the debugger again. And go ahead and run it till we get to the if statement. Here we go. This work. It says that this thing matches that regex, and if I run this, the test fails, but I think it's failing because the test is actually bad. I think the test should be checking something else. It should get the full path equal to this. We want to check if full path equals source to do's ID. They're both passing. I don't know if they're passing for the right reasons, but I think we might have actually solved this problem. That took way longer than I thought it was going to take. Now we have integration tests that are also running. These are failing because I think we're expecting something else. You don't need this part stuff, I don't think. Method, request. This. Point path. I'm going to call this method now, and what we need to do is we need to call it with those things, which, what do we call it with? Call it with the path, so that'd be rec.baseURL. We call it with the method, which we have. We call it with the extension, which I have this hacky stuff here. And then we need to pass the actual tree, get directory tree, and we could just say source routes. And if the endpoint path exists, or if it doesn't exist, we can throw an error like that. Get directory tree. Why is this complaining? Oh, it could be null. Const directory tree is equal to get directory tree of source routes. And then we're going to say if there is no directory tree. I don't know why that would ever be null, but I'll just go ahead and return this. And I could pass in directory tree here. Okay, let's run this test, see what happens. Okay, we might need to do a little bit more debugging here. So what we could do, put a debugger, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we are in the right package. Wait, why is this not... Oh, I know why. It's because I need to actually run... This is an integration test, so I need to run the actual service in a debugger. And then I need to go and run my tests, which are in the create directory. This monorepo stuff's getting confusing. I have so many different projects. Let me stop this actually. I just want to run one of the tests. That'll work. Okay, run my server in the debugger. Go over here, and I want to run it to do by ID test. If I run this, why is that not okay, maybe we don't even need the debugger for right now. Let's just keep this simple. I think there's something going wrong with my computer. Console.log. Let's just print out the directory tree real quick, and we're going to run dev. It's launching. Go ahead and run the test. We get the directory tree. It says source routes status, source routes to dos. We want the full thing. So I'll just go ahead and print out this. And we will just hit wrong test again. Go ahead, do this. All right, there's the full directory tree. At some point, we should get to do's ID of get. We have the post going. That works fine. But this is failing because I don't know why it's failing, to be honest. I also don't know why. Do the other tests work? No, they're all failing. All these tests are broken. Okay, so let's actually just hit the endpoint manually and see what's going on, because I think there's just something simple I'm not doing. This is probably returning null. Returning null. Why would this be returning null? We have a test that verifies that this thing actually works. So I'm guessing something we're passing into this thing is not correct. Got the method to lowercase is lambda. I think we're local, so is lambda will be false. Yeah. So this would be TypeScript. And I mean, let's just print these things out to make sure that we're on like the right path. You know, let's just go into this method. As you guys can tell, like I just jump around. My brain does not stay focused very easily. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's terrible. Sometimes it really helps me like attack things from different angles. So other times it helps me like get really distracted and I never solve the problem because I'm just jumping around. That was the wrong test on this one. To-dos post that. Actually, what I wanted to do is just hit this endpoint. We get to-dos, get PS. Why is that not finding it? Because we prefixed it here, maybe? No? I really wish I could get the debugger working in this. I don't know why the debugger was not working for me. Go ahead and print out this full thing here. Oh, wait a second. I think this just returns null. And what we actually want to do is we want to see if any of them are potentially defined. So like found path is equal to this if found path, return the found path. Otherwise return null. I think that's what we want to do, right? Why is this returning? Endpoint is still null. I think it's because we have to like send in the prefix. I think if we actually just did this, I should probably be going back to my test and like verifying this thing, but thing also has a fix of a slash. But that's the regex slash, isn't it? Why is this returning null? So we are checking if this regex matches get at to-dos. Is this not the proper thing? Let's go here and paste that in. And then we're going to go ahead and see, does this match this? Oh, we have a dot. Oh my gosh. I think that's part of the issue, is that this extension dot. I'm gonna hard code this. I'm gonna hack this real quick. How would that not work though? Hold on. Source routes to dos. Oh, I'm doing the wrong one. To dos get. Okay, that got back a route. That should have returned true, I believe. Node path. Man, I wish I could solve this on stream, but I think I need the drop. Frustrating. Like, I feel like the solution's right there and I should be able to figure this out, but like, is it even getting here? It's not even getting to that. Yeah, I watch this. I'll end the stream and then like I'll spend 10 minutes on this and I'll fix the bug. Like that's literally what happens. This is called Bearded Theme. But I'm gonna actually drop. I've been streaming for almost 2 hours now and my kid just woke up. So I'm gonna go make some food for my kid. And that's a wrap. So hopefully you guys learned something. You know, we played around with the debugger a little bit. We did some test-driven development. I jumped around tons and probably confused everyone. But that's cool. That's kind of how coding sometimes is. Place extra slash on if after routes. My man, you just fixed the bug. I think you did. I mean, you made it go further. But this actually returned something now. And I think if we get back the full path here, where are we running this path? Endpoint path. Come on, come on. Endpoint path is a source routes. Yeah, so now we're like prefixing. Too many tabs open. I don't know what's going on. We don't need to do this. Okay, this is passing. Let's run the test, the integration tests. You know, 2 for 3. 2 for 3. Can... Wait, this is... Okay, this is failing because we haven't implemented it yet. All right, let's just do this real quick. Input. This is going to be return z.object. This is going to be an ID. This is going to be input and providers. We're going to go ahead and get the to-do like this. We'll pass it input.id, and then we're going to go ahead and just return that to-do here. I want to make sure that the providers in my create index file is set up to get to-do. I don't think we have a get to-do, so let's go ahead and add one. Let's go here. We're going to add a get to-do. This takes an ID as a string, and we're going to say db.find unique where ID is equal to the ID that was passed in. Change that name, go back, run our tests. String message require path ID got undefined. Man, I feel like it was so close. But anyway, thanks for watching, y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to join my Discord if you want to talk to me directly, or just find a place to hang out with some other developers and get help. Yeah, good luck on your coding endeavors. Have a good day. Happy coding.